Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the ULA Network Podcast, where our mission is simple: to support, educate, and promote union labor, workforce development, and the opportunities that help strengthen our communities. Today, I'm honored to be joined by a true leader in workforce development and apprenticeship innovation, Marina Zhavoronkova, and I got that right the first time. Marina serves as the Executive Director of Trades Futures, a nationally recognized organization dedicated to expanding access to union construction careers through apprenticeship readiness programs, workforce partnerships, and career pathways that create life-changing opportunities for individuals and families across America. Before leading Trades Futures, Marina played a critical role at the U.S. Department of Commerce as Senior Advisor for Workforce Strategy within the CHIPS Program Office, helping develop strategies to recruit and retain the skilled workforce needed to build America's next generation of semiconductor manufactured facilities. She also helped launch the groundbreaking CHIPS Women in Construction framework. I know we're going to be talking about Tradeswomen Build Nations today as well, focused on expanding opportunities for women in the construction industry. Her impressive career includes serving as Assistant Secretary for Programs and Performance Management for the Massachusetts Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development, Senior Fellow for Workforce Development at the Center for American Progress, and leading youth workforce development initiatives right here in New York City. Her work isn't just about jobs, it's about creating opportunities, building confidence, and opening up doors to careers that create transforming generations of families. Marina, I want to thank you for joining us today and for everything that you do to create opportunities that truly change lives. Welcome to the ULA Network Podcast. That was a lot, though. That
was a lot. That was an incredibly generous introduction. Thank you, and thanks for having me. Just really looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, and Maria, again, that was a lot. I'm looking out, I'm like, you're an inspiring person, and we talk about workforce development, especially in the construction trades. To have you leading this realm right now, too. Big shout out to Allison for getting us together. Really excited to learn more about what's going on. For our viewers, for someone who's never heard of Trades Futures, can you describe the organization and its impact?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Trades Futures, very simply, we are working towards a nation where every individual, regardless of background, region, where they come from, has access to a union construction career. And we do that in a few different ways, the most notable of which is our network of over 200 apprenticeship readiness programs across the country. So if you haven't heard of us, you may have heard of one of our programs. Our programs all operate in communities, and they operate a pre-apprenticeship curriculum. We call them apprenticeship readiness programs that prepare community members for entry and acceptance into a union construction apprenticeship. Our story, the reason why we do this work is twofold. So one is access. We want to ensure that if folks don't have a current connection to union construction, right, that they get one through this program. So we're broadening, right, access to these careers. And the second is actually retention. So we want to ensure that folks know what to expect when they're entering an apprenticeship. You might not have realized that you might have to be up at 4 a.m, right? And it's better to realize that before you enter your apprenticeship rather than halfway through, right? And then you drop out. So our programs both broaden access and also prepare folks for what to expect to ensure they actually stay in careers for the long run.
That's incredible. And I've been to so many different career fairs or some job fairs that the apprenticeship locals host. And sometimes they have those breakout sessions, and some of those questions that you just mentioned, you realize you got to be up at 4:30 in the morning. Are you prepared for that? It's
exactly.
A great paying job, but if you're not an early riser, the job might not be for you.
That's exactly it. And actually just another example of what some of our programs cover. So this is all, remember, pre-apprenticeship. This is before folks have been exposed to what the trades are, what are your options, like what are the affiliated trades and apprenticeship opportunities in a region, and which one am I right for? One of the things that we actually cover in our programs is financial literacy, right? So the nature of a paycheck in the trades is sometimes a little different, right, than in a 40-hour-a-week W-2 job, And so knowing how to budget, with your paycheck, knowing what to expect through the life cycle of construction is really important. And so that, along with things like labor history, right? Why is the union component of this work so critical, and why does that make such a difference in construction in particular? That's what a lot of our programs cover. And again, they really ensure that folks who have not had access to this opportunity or to this world before are now brought in, through this new pipeline.
Yeah, right. And you mentioned about financial literacy incorporated into these particular programs because, again, we talked earlier too, my background in banking and finance, understanding how to manage that cash flow. I mean, these are high-paying careers, but the cash flow that comes in, some months you might be extremely busy and next months are not. How do you manage that cash flow individually as well as having a family, and then making sure that you're set up for retirement in your future?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll actually give you an example of less on the financial literacy part, but on the family part, because, we really believe that, we are creating access not just for one individual, but for an entire community. So we were at a graduation in Austin last year, Austin, Texas. And I was there with President McGarvey, who's president of North America's Building Trades Unions, of course, but also chair of our board, and just like an incredible champion for apprenticeship readiness programs and the models they offer. So we were at this graduation, and there was a graduate who was a first-generation immigrant, had gone through the program, was starting in his apprenticeship with the UA local on Monday and on the job. And the training director was like, your last name looks familiar. How did you find out about this? And he's like, oh, my brother actually went through the program 2 years ago. And he's now a second-year apprentice with the IBEW. And I bring this up because this was a family and a community that previously wasn't connected, right, to this work. So it's not just like individual points of light. It's like really creating a new pathway, a new way of recruitment for an entire community, which doesn't just help the community, it helps the industry, right? Like we need people. And so our work is in many ways self-serving, right, to ensure that there are more workers, right, available both to fill the labor demands that we see in industry, but also to bring good opportunities and quality jobs to families and communities.
Absolutely, Marina. Again, we've talked about this. We've had the privilege of going through some of these training centers and seeing what these educational facilities are all about, and it's really inspiring to see. I mean, and you're applying that cognitive learning. When you get your hands on there and seeing how you can apply that, and then the math skills that are needed just to be able to do some of these jobs as well. It is a really incredible profession. And you look at technology as well and how the construction technology is integrating in to get the next generation really inspired and seeing how the evolution of the construction trade is growing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And just to your math point, our programs all do a minimum of 40 hours of construction math, but many add on more. We have a lot of folks that are interested in going into the mechanical trades. Obviously, there's an entrance exam that they often need. It's very competitive, right? And you need, I don't know that I could pass it, honestly, these days. My math's a little rusty. And so a lot of our programs help with that aspect of like just test preparation, right, as well. We had a conference last week, and we had a graduate of one of our programs who was speaking at the conference, and he's a first-year apprentice with the UA local here, right around here where we are, which is in Baltimore, or he's in Baltimore, we're in DC. And he was saying, like the math part of it, like that was a big part of the prep. He's like, it's blown my mind, how much of my day-to-day job is math. And I think a lot of folks really underestimate that. And, you obviously get some of that in the pre-apprenticeship piece, but a lot of that is learned in the apprenticeship program itself as well.
To see these trades, men and women in their careers and jobs, just knowing that they're not just working, there's math and science behind all these particular professions that need to be put into place to build these infrastructure, around, the country. It's impressive to see. And again, I just have such an appreciation for it. It's why I want to promote these initiatives the best possible way and to work alongside you. And Trades Futures is just, I'm just really excited to, to have you on again today. So thank you.
Likewise.
So for our audience too, for many people, many young people are told that they need a 4-year degree to succeed. What would you tell those students who are considering a union apprenticeship instead? And it could be and/or, but we're seeing the both. But what advice would you give?
I mean, I think our goal is to make sure that people know they have options, right? If your path is a college degree, that's great. But if you aren't sure, we hope that you know how to go down the apprenticeship path and the union apprenticeship path in particular. And, I'm actually going to quote Dr. Krieger, who I think some of your viewers might know. He's NABTU's research and education director, and just also has been an incredible champion for this work for many years. And, he the way that he has put it is, if you ask a high school student, how do I get into college, right? They will know. They know what the FAFSA process is. They know that you have to apply, and they know how to do that. If you ask them, how do I get into a union construction apprenticeship? They probably don't know the answer, right? Like your average high school student won't know the answer. And so I think a lot of this work is, how do we demystify that process? And how do we, in many cases, we partner directly, our programs partner directly with high schools to help with recruitment. And what we would say is, obviously the union construction apprenticeship, for those folks that go through our programs and then are accepted into an apprenticeship, that's a debt-free pathway to a middle-class career, right? That is one of the rarest things that exists in this country these days. And it's one of the fewest sort of remaining pathways into the middle class, and in many cases, really into the upper middle class, right? For a lot of folks around the country. And the other piece that I'll just add on that note is, we know that a lot of college graduates are having a lot of fair concerns, around artificial intelligence and like, what is that going to do to my job prospects over the years? We know that in many ways, construction careers are some of the most AI-proof careers out there in two ways. One is that demand for construction is growing because of data center construction, right? So it's literally actually increasing demand for those workers. But the other piece is that they're just, the skills that you build in a construction career are just much more difficult to replace with AI, right? Like, we are not yet at the point where a robot can lay bricks. And so, I mean, maybe AI will be able to do that too, but it doesn't seem to be happening, today. And so we've seen, I think, increased interest in these pathways from folks who are aware, a little nervous, around what AI might do to the economy. And we know that there's strong demand for these pathways. So I just really encourage folks to consider this type of pathway. It's debt-free. We have a lot of growth and demand for it. And in the union sector, you have access to a pension, to benefits, in a way that is really, I think, hard to come by in many sectors these days.
Absolutely. And we talked earlier, Marina, too, about some of the community college partnerships that you've recently brought on in May of this year. TradeFuse launched a new partnership with the Pennsylvania Community College System. Maybe you can go over a little bit of that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we have a few programs across the country that are currently operated in partnership with community colleges. And those have been growing. I would say there's been a growing interest in operating a program in partnership with the community college. One initiative that's newer that we're excited about is an agreement we recently signed with the Pennsylvania Commission of Community Colleges, which represents the entire community college system in the state of Pennsylvania, so all 15 community colleges. And that's to actually launch our programming, launch the multi-craft core curriculum and the apprenticeship readiness program model across all 15 community colleges. And that partnership is also our active partner in that work is the Pennsylvania State Building Trades Council, because obviously the special sauce of all our programs is that it's not just a curriculum, but there is a partnership with the council, which is what leads to apprenticeship placement pathways for graduates. So that's in development right now. We're hoping to launch the first programs within that network this year, and then getting everyone else on board soon. But it will be the first time in the country, that we have had a full statewide community college network come under our umbrella. And that is really encouraging, because that shows that wherever you are in the state, you can have access to this type of curriculum and to this type of opportunity, and to the jobs that are associated with it.
I got a question for you too. CUNY University of New York. I know they work closely with construction skills, kind of rolls into. We had the pleasure of meeting Vincent Boudreau, the president of CUNY, and he was so excited to see some of the integrations and some of the course curriculum working within CUNY right now. Yeah. We worked with the bricklayers, and they did a design build contest, taking architects and working alongside apprentices and journey men and women to really design what they put on paper and then build it out collectively to see
Really cool.
how the trades actually work and the intricacy and the skill level that's needed. And there was such an appreciation at that particular project. It was really exciting to see, and just wanted to share that with you as well.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And I will say, just to give a shout out, so, we have a number of programs that we work with in New York City. New York City actually has an apprenticeship readiness collective, which is sort of 4 programs. One of them is construction skills, which works with CUNY, who you mentioned. Pathways to Apprenticeships, another, non-traditional employment for women, and then the helmets to hard hats in the program in the area as well. So construction skills is an MC3 program that we work with. They, to our conversation around high schools, they actually have one of their models, super interesting. They work with several high schools in the area, and they offer training for the second half of the day for high school seniors so that they can participate in the MC3 program and then again have entry into the construction trades in the area. And then that collective also, everyone in that collective, the programs have direct entry to the 14 affiliated trades in New York City, which is great because it means that they essentially typically don't have to wait until a particular time period, the admissions cycle for the trade. If they're qualified and meet the requirements, they are able to apply, to the apprenticeship program. And that's really critical because in a lot of our programs, you have folks sometimes who, maybe have given up a low wage job to go through training. And so they can't necessarily wait and for, months for an opportunity to open up. And so when we're able to place people as fast as possible, that benefits, again, both the union and our graduates. And because oftentimes if you don't, you lose track of people, you put all this time to training them and they're like, well, I got to go make some money. So I'm going to go over here and do that. And you guys let me know when you're ready. But sometimes they've moved on. Right. So I just think the model in New York City is really unique because it's really holistic, right? They invest in the training and the pre-apprenticeship part of it, but then they also have these really clear partnerships for graduates to have access to opportunity as fast as possible until upon graduation.
Yeah, I think it helps with retention as well, obviously, and then the mentorship that's involved so that they get into these programs and meeting some peers or people that will be working collectively with. So a couple of weeks back too, New had that graduation luncheon. Again, just to see the growth of women in the trades, something we'll touch base with a little bit later on as well. But again, just these particular programs really are a feeder source or just an educational source to get them to to a successful career within the construction trades, which is great.
Absolutely, yeah.
So could you maybe lend your advice as to what are some of the biggest misconceptions you may see or people may see about the careers in the construction trades today?
One is, I would say, which is our programs are actively trying to adjust, is that they are only for one type of person, right? They are only for you if you have a family member, who has been in the trades, right? And I think we know that that's not the case. That's the exact type of goal that our programs are looking to reach, which is how do we broaden, right, the communities and the folks that have access to the construction trades. The other example of that is women, right? We know that women are 4% of the skilled trades. Our programs are 21% women. And so we've had a lot of success with programs really increasing representation of women across a variety of different apprenticeships and really great partnerships with unions and employers to make that happen. Another example, just to bring up, justice-involved communities, right, folks with a history of being in a correctional institution. We have a number of programs across the country that either serve folks who are still incarcerated or were recently released. And, I actually heard from one of our programs recently, which is in partnership with Center for Employment Opportunities in upstate New York in Buffalo. They ran a cohort of folks who had all come from the criminal justice system, and 50% of the graduates ended up accepted into an apprenticeship program, which is amazing. I mean, that type of trajectory, right, coming from incarceration to a union apprenticeship career is huge, right? So I think that's a huge misconception that I think we have so many partners across the union construction ecosystem are looking to actively change and have really, I would say, put their money where their mouth is in terms of who is eligible for an apprenticeship. That's a big piece, and I think also many folks are just surprised by the array of options in the trades, right? And that's what our programs do is they say, people are like, well, I don't know if I want to be plumber, pick a trade. You actually have a lot of options, right? And within every option, there's more options. And I think that's what apprenticeship readiness programs can do is can really tell you what it's like. Our programs do site visits to a lot of the trades. They also talk a lot about like the union component, I think is critical, where you're not just entering an industry, but you're entering a union. And that makes a big difference because it's not just a job, it's like a career and a life. And I think, I wouldn't say it's like a misconception, but I think that's something that people who might be considering the trades don't know is part of the appeal, right? Is part of the value add. So yeah, it's just a few.
Yeah, just to name a few, right?
More. Yeah.
Of course. And Marina, I know we talked about this, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to get out to DC, but you had an incredible event, the National Apprenticeship Readiness Forum, early this month. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what the forum entailed, what happened this week?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So this was a forum that we hosted last week. It was our first time hosting it. And honestly, it went so well that I think it'll happen again next year. So cool. If you're interested in attending, if folks are interested in attending again, hopefully you'll join us. I think we see our role as not just supporting our network of programs, but really growing the narrative and public support and policy support and funding support for apprenticeship readiness programming across the country. So that means it's not just about the work our programs directly do, but it's about how we can tell the story, and influence policy, funding, partnerships that help grow this model and help this work. So that's really what this conference was about. We were able to cover topics like policies, right? Both federal, state, local government policy that can improve outcomes for pre-apprenticeship programs, but also language and like collective bargaining agreements that can really support graduates. We had a lot of just really passionate advocates for the work that talked about sort of best practices, for example, around union and employer engagement. One like particular topic that I feel very passionate about is what I call apprenticeship readiness programs as intermediaries. So we have so many programs that, yes, they play a training function. They do pre-apprenticeship training. They use our curriculum. They partner to get people placed, but they do a lot more. They play this role in the community. They're able to act as like an extension, I would say, of the union and the council in many ways. In a way that like the union or the council might not have the capacity or the time or resources to do. And so we have programs that, do community engagement. They often act, if a jurisdiction has like a local hire requirement, like you're required to hire people from a particular zip code, right? They will do screening and recruitment for that type of requirement, which often benefits participants in the training program, right, as well. They do policy advocacy. We have programs that do when projects have apprentice utilization requirements, like for a certain percent of hours to be worked on a project to be worked by apprentices, they will do that type of monitoring. And so we really want to encourage people. And I think this conference was really focused on like, it's not, yes, apprenticeship readiness programs play a crucial training role, but they also do so much more than that. And the opportunity is infinite, right, in terms of what this type of organization can do in and for a community. And so we just had a mix of programs, labor leaders, employers, policy researchers and policymakers, funders, and just, really people who are very dedicated and excited about this work. And so hope to do it again next year.
Absolutely. Now, Maria, you're going to have a recap or anything, I guess, best practices to deploy out after this particular conference as well? We
will. And actually, so we have a report that we put out that we talked a lot about at this conference, which, you can find on our website. And it's called Scaling Promising Practices in Apprenticeship Readiness Programs. And what it reflects is, over the years since apprenticeship readiness programs have existed, which I should say, like, Trace Futures or NAPSU did not invent apprenticeship readiness programs, right? The concept of a pre-apprenticeship that prepares people for access into the union construction trades has existed organically in communities for a really long time. What we have been trying to do is sort of create more of a network, right? We have a standardized curriculum, and a standardized model, and we're trying to sort of grow awareness and resources and support for this particular network. So our goal is to amplify the work that's happening locally. But what we found is the demand for this type of model has grown so much. The model has grown exponentially, right, since it started. And that means that we need to double down on quality, right? It's fine to do a career awareness training, and that has its own benefit, but the core of our programs is placement, right? We are not a train and pray model, right? We want to ensure that folks who graduate, who want to go into a union apprenticeship and are qualified, have the opportunity to do so. And so some of the research we've done in this report that we put out, which as I said, is available on our website, is what are the 5 promising practices that programs can implement, unions and employers can support, and funders should fund, that can really help with outcomes, right? With placement outcomes. And just really briefly, that's union engagement. So kind of obvious, but I think really having deeper sort of multi-level affiliate engagement is really important to have maximal placement opportunities. Employer engagement, I think some of our programs, I think, I'm engaged with the union, I don't need to also engage with the employer, but in fact, both are really necessary. Number 3 is sort of managing enrollment. So don't enroll more people than the unions tell you they need, but also, ensure that we're screening for what are the baseline sort of requirements. If every apprenticeship program in the region requires a GED or a high school diploma, we shouldn't be enrolling folks who don't have that. They should go back and get it and then come back to the program, right? Number 4 is sort of program enhancements. So that's supportive services, transportation support, stipends, childcare, to help people. These are barriers we can address, in the program, but then also curriculum supplements. Like if you have a regional employer who's I really need a, flagger certification, that should be added into your program, right? That's something that you can help to add to help people be employable. And then the last is this piece on what we call demand side policy. So again, how can state, local policy and CBAs really increase demand and graduation and placement opportunities for graduates? And so those are the 5. So hopefully everyone has them written down. But that's going to really be the core of a lot of our work moving forward, which is how do we support programs in implementing these and really advocate for broader national support for this type of work that can help our programs do this locally. So it's really big focus on program quality and placement.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, because there's such a demand, you don't want to get it watered down and just start pushing people just to go through these particular programs. This is a in-demand career profession, the way I see it right now. And like you mentioned, the vocational career opportunities, the emergence, and you're seeing such philanthropic donations from bigger corporations like the data centers, the Googles, or the Bloombergs of the world, really pouring money into this educational initiative to make sure people are qualified, well-trained, and can move into that particular career path. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot more, I guess, corporate philanthropic donations to these particular programs. I mean, I've seen it, so I'm sure.
I think everyone has seen these sort of major investments in skilled trades. That I think folks have seen. Bloomberg Philanthropies recently did a set of investments that are really targeting high school programs. And a set of those include union partnerships in a few regions. We are part of an investment that Google.org recently made that included us, Electrical Training Alliance, SMART, and I want to say I'm missing one more, but a number of union training alliances that were part of that investment. So that was really promising. And, that was on the philanthropic side, but there's some recent reporting out of, the Associated Press that looked at data center construction employment. And, Google has said that over half of the construction workers on their data centers are union, which is pretty interesting. And, in general, data center employment, in that same article, President McManus out of UA, said that over 90% of UA members have at some point worked on a data center, which is pretty wild. So we've seen a lot of investment there. We've seen investment out of others as well. But I think it's just recognizing the fact that we need skilled trades to do all this work, and we've got to actually put some money out there to do it and to create new pipelines, right? And I think our goal is to ensure, though, that these are sustainable pipelines and not short-term training programs, right? Like a union apprenticeship trains you across the range of your craft. So yes, there's a lot of data center work, but you might need to be trained in other work as well, right? And so that's what the 4-year plus, model really teaches you, so that you are ultimately far more employable and that you have access to a network of employers through the union. And so that's why we really want to ensure that any investments in skilled trades training is really it's not short term, just for one employer's needs, but really thinking about building up the industry, right? And the base of workers overall.
Absolutely. And that's where you see the apprenticeship facilities now. So if you are a union member, you have the ability and the access to go to these training centers and update and get yourself the certifications that are needed on these job sites via safety or any other particular program to really, and I always say pad your resume, but just build your resume on the certifications that you have. So you could move up the ranks from your hourly rates and things of that nature as well that I've seen. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, even you mentioned that I used to work for the CHIPS program, and I remember visiting the UA Training Center in Syracuse, New York, and they have an entire clean room, right, set up dedicated for training, to prep folks to work on the Micron project in Syracuse, right? So these are all industry partnerships, right? But this is all very demand driven. But folks are going to be prepared, for the work that's available.
Yeah. Marie, you mentioned the ARC initiatives and the diversification of programs, and there's so many clubs within locals, but just so people feel connected. You mentioned about helmets to hard hats, which is near and dear to my heart in regards to transitioning veterans, direct access programs, women in the trades with new in the New York area, another incredible organization and an event. And if you can elaborate a little bit, because I know that this is another event that's coming up in October out in Houston, I believe. Yeah. And it's under your umbrella now too. So maybe you can elaborate on the women in the trades that now to trades women build nations.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if folks here haven't been to Trades Women Build Nations, I hope you get a chance to go at some point in your life. It is just one of the most remarkable conferences I think that anyone will have ever been to. Just the energy is incredible. It's up to the point where it's up to 6,000 people, women in trades who are coming for this conference. So this is an initiative that also has just grown exponentially over the years, and NAB2 really grew it to the place where it is today. Since last year, it has become sort of hosted by Trades Futures with continued strong stewardship from NAB2. Again, Sean McGarvey is our board chair, so that will always be sort of just a complete partnership, but it's very much in line with our mission, right, of expanding access to union construction careers. And we find that this type of conference not only expands access, but also just really helps with retention, right? When you are able to, women are, it's an incontrovertible fact, it's growing in pockets, but women still are an incredibly small portion of the skilled trades. So being able to go to an event like this and seeing so many other people like you is a really incredible experience. And last year, actually, Trades Futures was able, with Milwaukee Tool, to sponsor 9 graduates of apprenticeship readiness programs who had graduated within the last year and were now in an apprenticeship program to be part of this Rising Leaders program. So they were able to attend TWBN, so to really sort of see this continuum, from the apprenticeship readiness program into the apprenticeship and now into the sisterhood. And that was really amazing. And so we'll probably do that again this year. But yeah, it's this year we're in Houston. We're actually launching registration. I don't want to say, I think it's this week. So, hopefully, if you're listening and are a fan, you'll go and register soon. And if it's not up yet, you can say, hey.
I thought it was up. I was telling somebody this the other day. I was like, I think it's up right now. I know the dates were announced.
It might be up. It honestly might be up. So if it is, then great. I'm going to say under promise, over deliver. But any day now. So yeah, so October 9th through 11th in Houston. We are super excited to be in Houston. I personally, I feel like, I don't know, I'm sure people here watched the Artemis launch earlier this year, but I feel like there's an astronaut space fever, going on. So it feels very cool to be there. And obviously there's just a ton of construction and a ton of investment happening in the state of Texas right now. We'll have a really great slate of speakers. We always do breakout sessions. I think the parade, for anyone who's been, is a huge highlight. So yeah, it's a great initiative and just like a really inspiring experience to be a part of and to just be in the room.
I've gone for the past 4 years, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and you
Yeah.
just start seeing different people there. Again, me coming back, we've met a few different tradeswomen that have started their own, women's network after coming back. Christina
yeah.
Lemire, shout out, local 12 insulators. She came back and was just so inspired. She met with, people. You meet people at the airport, and the solidarity is just right there. It's there. It's just incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Solidarity is the word. It just feels really inspiring. And it's even like people meet each other from the same region, so they're closer than they think, and didn't know necessarily that you had someone else close to you. And it's just, and I also say, like, I have a lot of council leaders that attend. It's so great to see support for this work from all aspects of like the union ecosystem. And it feels like it's just a very special experience and special event.
Oh, without a doubt. The voices are there. People are just so excited to, promote the trades and the connection. So, I'm just, be there in October. That's all I can say is be there in October.
Yeah.
You want to be there. You want to meet some people, international presidents, different locals from across the country. That's the place to go. So
Absolutely.
Marina, again, I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing. Our mission's aligned. I really just, as an educator of these particular careers, ULA's mission: support, educate, promote union labor in our communities. And these particular professions really do have a direct impact on our communities, the livelihood, families. So any way that we can be of support to your initiatives or deploy the information that you have, we are here for you. You have direct access, and we just want to be as involved and connected. Just so thankful to know you and be a part of this, labor movement and try to educate the next generation of skilled tradespeople across the country.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for everything that you do. I mean, it's one of those, again, you can't do it alone. You really need the platform because it's not just about the work that we do, but it's about just spreading the idea, and the opportunity for others to do this. Like, as these programs that are out there, we do not operate them. They come to us. People say, hey, I want to start a program, and we help them do that. And so this type of opportunity, right, this type of platform helps this model grow and helps more people have access to the same opportunities that you and I want to see more of.
Without a doubt. And you're seeing everybody on socials right now. I mean, you're seeing it from the members. They're they're showcasing their work, their life, the opportunities that are there. And now it's just honing everybody together and just putting that out there through one big super hose, just to keep pushing it through.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got it.
Anything else you want to leave with the audience, Marina? Again, I just can't thank you enough. I'm excited to meet you personally. I know you're in DC. So
I know. No, I mean, just, hope to see people in Houston for TWBN, maybe next year in DC for our next Apprenticeship Readiness Forum. And, I just hope if you're interested in partnering with an apprenticeship readiness program in your neighborhood or in your community or starting one, hopefully you can reach out to us. And for all those of your listeners that already do, because there are so many people out there, thank you. You're the reason that this work happens. So thanks to you and to everyone for your support.
Without a doubt, Maria. Again, we'll get all this information out there. So we'll get this to the masses and promote the incredible work that you're doing, Trades Futures, as well as NAP2. So I just want to thank you again for your time, everything you do, and look forward to seeing you real soon.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank all our sponsors for helping to build and promote the ULA Network. It is because of you that we're able to support, educate, and promote informative content relevant to labor. Please subscribe, like, and share our channel and media. I'd like to thank you all for your support.